I feel tension instead of freedom when I do pharyngeal exercises like nay or wah. Is this normal? Okay, so it is normal in that, yes, it's a common issue, but no, we don't want to feel tension when we're doing these exercises. They're designed to release the voice and bring freedom. So tension is the opposite of what we want. And if you're new to these techniques, we're talking about exercises like nay, 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 wah, 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 wah. Sometimes we start from the top. Nay, 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 nay. Long scales. Wah, 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 wah. Nay, 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 nay. Okay, pharyngeal, we're engaging that nasality. Lots of different patterns we can do them on, but they're all the same type of exercise in terms of resonance. We're looking for a super bright nasally sound that's resonating in the pharyngeal cavity, all up in this space behind your nose, in the middle of your face, that buzz. And it's this middle resonator that helps to connect our chest and head voice so that there's not a big flip, there's not a discrepancy between our low and high range. The pharyngeal helps to lift the excess pressure off of our off the throat, off of chest voice, so that we can keep the fullness in the sound as we go higher, but not keep any pressure, not keep the tension. Okay, and that's what these scales do. It feels very free throughout my range. Hey Devin, hey Sarah, hey Lauren, thanks for hopping on here. I'm glad you could join me live. I will say a lot of people get hung up on the fact that these exercises sound super nasally, but forget about that and focus on the important thing that it's achieving in the voice. I'm able to keep the fullness, and more importantly, I'm able to keep the consistency in the tone as I go into the higher range. It's not just going into a light head voice tone. And not only that, but it feels free. Those notes as they go up there, those notes don't, those are high notes, but they don't feel high for me, okay? But for some people, when you do these exercises, you don't feel freedom. You feel a lot of tension building up as you go into your higher range. And there are a few main reasons for this. The biggest reason, the most common thing I see, is singers who haven't developed their head voice enough. And this is the case I find for the majority of guys. Haven't developed their head voice very much at all, and many females as well. You haven't spent enough time doing head voice exercises, okay? Building that lightness, that freedom up in your higher range, building strength up there. And what you have to understand is that the pharyngeal is not so much its own resonator, but we should think about it as more of a layering or covering on top of our chest voice and our head voice. So in our low range, it's going to be chest voice mixed with pharyngeal, right? This tilting letter C, if you watched some of my other videos, and especially in Master Your Voice, I talk about that a lot. And in your high range, it's going to be head voice mixed with pharyngeal resonance. And then in the mid range, it's going to be a balance, more of a balance between all three resonators. So if your head voice isn't very strong, if you don't have very much goo, 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 wee, 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 if your head voice isn't very strong and you start moving higher up in your scales and try to mix with your head voice, either the voice is going to flip into a lighter, weaker sound, or since there's not enough to mix with, you're going to end up pushing way too much chest voice in the mix up into your higher range, and that just leads to huge amounts of tension. Right? So much tension as I go up there. But if I have head voice to mix with, it'll sound like nay, 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 nay. Wow, 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 wow. Very different, right? So you've got to spend time developing your head voice, both girls and guys. There's no way around it. If you want to sing in a mixed voice, you need a strong chest voice and a strong head voice, and then you can use these pharyngeal exercises to build the mix between them. But you can't expect the mix to work properly if you haven't built solid foundations for it. You can't expect it to work if you don't have all the ingredients for it, right? It's like if you're making a recipe, if you're baking a chocolate cake and you don't have any chocolate or cocoa in the house at all, it's not going to be a chocolate cake, okay? So the mix needs all of these components. It needs especially head voice to be built. Okay, the second reason why you might feel tension when you do pharyngeal exercises, excuse me, is, I see this all the time, you're not doing them nasally enough. So many singers are afraid of sounding too nasally in their songs, so they overcompensate and they shy away from nasality in the exercises where we need it the most. Believe me, I know the feeling. I can still remember when my coaches introduced these kinds of exercises to me years ago. I tried to make them sound pretty. Nay, 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 wah, 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 wah. And it's completely defeating the purpose of the exercise, which is to bring that nasality in, and it will cause tension, especially if you have a habit of pushing on your chest voice, because as you get higher, you'll end up just going nay, 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 nay. Makes my throat feel terrible. Nay, 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 nay. Right? I'm just going to end up pushing on my chest voice. The nasally cry of the pharyngeal in these exercises is designed to lift that pressure off, but you have to commit to it. And I mean really commit to it. It should sound obnoxious and ugly because that's what makes it work. Wah! Wah, wah, wah! Nay, nay, nay! Nay, 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 nay! Wah, 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 wah! That's what allows me to go up into my higher range with that fullness without it breaking or flipping. And these exercises, believe me, trust me, that the intention is not for you to sound ugly and nasally in your songs. The intention is to build your mix voice using this build your range, build this seamless tone so that you can then sound more normal, right? This wah, 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 hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. I think you'd agree with me that that sounds a lot more normal than wah, 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 wah. Because in a song, once we've developed these things, it normalizes itself. It evens itself out in the voice, and we want to use what we need of that pharyngeal and not the excess. Okay, so that's all covered in my courses, so definitely dive into those. Okay, A third reason why you might feel tension in your exercises is because of your mouth shape when you're doing the pharyngeal exercises. A lot of people, their mouth ends up being really small and wide. Okay, so I am reaching those notes in pharyngeal resonance as I go up, but it feels so tight. Doesn't feel free at all. It's really inefficient, that wide, small mouth shape. Really inefficient for the resonance. Everything tightens up, the tongue, throat, the jaw. So what we're looking for is a more narrow, vertical mouth shape. If you've taken my Master Your Voice lessons, you know I talk about this in pretty much every lesson. But if you've started doing it, I think you have probably discovered that, oh, it does work. Makes my voice work a lot better, right? Okay, so narrow, vertical mouth shape, not line, horizontal, okay? So we're looking at that narrow mouth shape and tons of looseness in your neck, jaw, and tongue, okay? Especially your tongue. We tend to hold a lot of tension there sometimes without even knowing it. So something you can try is sticking out your tongue slightly and doing like a wah exercise, and focus on making sure your tongue stays relaxed, okay? Wah, 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 wah. It's, I can't talk like that, excuse me. It's very relaxed. Okay, so sticking it out. For a lot of people, tongue tension is a huge issue for them, and they don't realize it until they do something like this, stick out their tongue, and narrowing their mouth, right? So instead of see how my mouth is vertical? It literally, I'm doing nothing different but changing the shape of my mouth. From ugh, feels terrible, sounds terrible. Right? Just try that and feel how it releases the tension. And less tension in your exercises means less tension in your songs, which is ultimately our goal, right? So to recap, if you feel tension when you're doing pharyngeal exercises, first of all, you probably need to develop your head voice more. So use the exercises in the Worship Vocalist courses. You might need to do them a lot more nasally. You might be sounding way too pretty when you do them. And you might need to focus on narrowing your mouth and just in general loosening everything up. It might be a combination of all three of those things for you, or it might just be one of them, so you'll need to do some experimenting and try things out.